What's up, guys? Eli here, and yes, I am house sitting right now. I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of dogs, so they might be in and out of this entire video. I'm sure you won't complain. Anyways, what we're doing today is I've been talking about it on Instagram a little bit. I think I've talked about it on this channel a little bit. We're going to be doing my top 3 Nicolas Cage movies of all time. Now, I'll kind of preface that by saying I don't own every single Nicolas Cage movie. I do have quite a few. For me to go out and get every Nicolas Cage movie and watch them all a couple of times, and that would be a lot of work. But so I've been a fan of his literally since I was a little kid, and I'm just sticking with the ones that have, the ones that I own and the ones that have, kind of proven themselves to me over the years and even the decades. So, not. I don't want to give us, any spoilers to what's going to be shown here, but not all of these are old Nicolas Cage movies, so this will be kind of interesting. You might want to hang in until the end if you can. When I do lists, I never ever do honorable mentions. I think honorable mentions are stupid. I can't stand when people do like a top 10 and then 5 honorable mentions. Motherfucker, you just did a top 15, so I think it's stupid. But I'm going to do one honorable mention, and only because I have owned this movie for years, and I just rewatched it the other day for fun. But it's not one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies. However, it is a good one, so I'm just going to show it just to kick this off. But no, this is not a top 4. This is just sort of an honorable mention, even though, like I said, I don't believe in them. So we're talking about Bringing Out the Dead. I saw this movie in the theater probably when I was 17 or so. That was back when I was seeing everything in the theater. I was seeing as many movies as possible. This is I was right on the money. This is 99, so I was 17. Again, when I was 16 and 17, maybe even 18, I was seeing everything. So 98 to 2000, I saw a shitload of movies in the theater. I probably could have bought a theater with all the money I spent. So this is a Martin Scorsese movie, which is cool. This is about Nicolas Cage being a limo driver, a burnt-out limo driver at that. He's been doing it for 5 years, working crazy fucking hours in early 90s New York City at that. So back, I want to say in the 90s, early 90s even, New York City wasn't at its worst, but it was still pretty fucking bad from what I have read and what I understand. I know in the 70s and 80s it was worse. It was, they were, by the early 90s, I think they were already, they were cleaning it up. But I think it was still pretty bad. So if you can imagine that. And it's basically about him, he's worked so much. This job is traumatic. It's caused him, obviously, a lot of trouble. He's an alcoholic. He's depressed. And it's getting to the point where he's hallucinating and seeing things. So a great movie, a great performance out of Nicolas Cage, but not only Nicolas Cage. Patricia Arquette is great, and John Goodman's not in it a lot, but he's great, like he is all the time. You got Tom Sizemore, yet again, being basically just playing himself, a crazy fucking lunatic. And honestly, my favorite performance in this movie, Ving Rhames. I think Ving Rhames, I'm not going to say he makes the movie, because, essentially Nicolas Cage is the main character. But Ving Rhames is so fucking entertaining. I would have not wanted, his character to not be in this movie. He just made it funny, and yeah, he brought a lot to the table in this movie. And oddly enough, you have even, remember that fucking singer, what was his name, Mark Anthony. Why am I not seeing his name on the back? Because Mark Anthony is in this. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Mark Anthony's in this. He's been in a couple movies around this time period, and he's pretty good too, to be honest. I don't give a fuck about his music. His music sucks, but he's not a bad actor, at least in this one. So, anyways, yeah, now that we're kind of warmed up, my number 3 is going to be, and again, I have a hard time. I'm very surprised with myself that I would add more recent movies into a list. Nicolas Cage has been acting since, probably like the late 70s, early 80s. And he's probably got literally probably 100 movies to choose from. And a lot of them, I've enjoyed since I was, like I said, a little kid. So for me to put a movie in that just came out last year in 2020 is, I think, saying a lot. What does this say? 2017. I thought this came out in 2020. It says 2017, and then it says 2018. I don't know. I thought this movie came out last year. I guess it came out a couple of years ago. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The movie we're talking about is Mandy. Now, I know this was kind of polarizing, you know, for people. People seem to either love it or hate it. I think, honestly, I think most people with any kind of taste liked it. No offense to you if you didn't. I know it was a very much a slow burn, and yeah, and again, some people just didn't get it. And I think the fact that it is a very atmospheric, slow burn movie, some people just aren't into that, aren't into movies like that, and that's okay. That doesn't, despite what I just said, that does not mean that you have bad taste. I'm not going to go there, but I like a good slow burn movie, and I like sometimes when I have to work a little harder for it, when things aren't just exploding everywhere and, you know, tons of fast-paced action. I don't even really like action movies, to be honest, anymore. And this is not an action movie. Well, actually, it kind of is. This is kind of like an action, horror, revenge thriller, you know, kind of all rolled into one. In case you haven't seen it, I won't give up. I'll try not to spoil it, but so Nicolas Cage and his, I want to say wife, I believe they're married. Let's just say partner. I know that's the politically correct term to use these days. Mandy, they basically live out in the boonies, out in the woods. Nicolas Cage is a lumberjack. I guess you'd call it that. Are people lumberjacks still? This is also set in the early 80s, so anyways, a logger, whatever. And Mandy runs like this backwoods kind of convenience store, basically. And so there's also a really crazy religious cult that has like a compound kind of nearby where they live. And so there's this charismatic kind of cult leader who's, you know, kind of rolling down the road or whatever in his van. You know, he's got his cronies driving him around and shit. And he sees Mandy walking home from work, and he's instantly obsessed with her. He's an egomaniac. He, you know, when he wants something, he basically takes it, and that's just kind of like how he's lived his life. He's also like a folk singer. I guess he had an album or something out in the 70s or whatever, which I kind of get the impression that the album actually didn't really do that well, and he thinks way higher of himself, you know, than he rightfully should. Makes for a great villain, basically. So I don't know how far I should go. He basically, yeah, like I said, he's obsessed with Mandy. He basically kidnaps her, and it just unfolds from there. And this movie is fucking insane. He's got like I said, he's got a religious cult. He's got like this pharmacist that works for him, and basically just his sole job is to manufacture like LSD and all kinds of crazy shit for the cult to take. He's got that. There's some crazy like there's this jar that they have. It's literally like a jar like that big, full of some weird liquid with this like giant fucking bee that sits in there, and that's like that's a drug they've created where you pull the bee out with like a giant pair of tongs and you let it sting you, which it's got to be painful as fuck. And yeah, so lots of hallucinogenics going on in here. It's a very psychedelic movie. Throughout a lot of it, there's this crazy fucking like Cenobite motorcycle gang this movie is absolutely insane. The action parts, like I said, I'm not really that big into action movies anymore. I was definitely in like the late 80s, early 90s, but the action scenes in this are just pretty much off the charts. There's like a chainsaw battle. Nicolas Cage fights with a chainsaw, fights another guy with a chainsaw, and it's just, yeah. So anyways, this is not just a dumb action movie, though. There's a lot of emotion going on here. There's a lot of just raw emotion. There, you know, Nicolas Cage gives off a great performance, so believable. And in fact, there's one scene in particular that I won't talk about, but literally, I mean, it just like hits me like somebody just hit me in the heart with a sledgehammer. Very, very believable acting. Yeah, one of his best performances. Like I said, or like I'm kind of getting at, not only is this one of my favorite movies of his, it's one of my favorite performances of his, and I think that's where I'm going really with all these. All these movies I'm showing are not just my favorite movies in general that he was in, but his performances, in the movies are just some of my favorites of all time. I'll also mention that this is directed by a guy named Panos Cosmatos, as you can see right there. Young director. He's only done 2 movies. This is his second movie, and he is 2 for 2. I've talked, I think, at least once on this channel also of his first movie, Beyond the Black Rainbow. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check out Beyond the Black Rainbow. I have Nicolas Cage is not in it, but I have a hard time choosing which of his 2 movies I like more, to be honest. That movie, Beyond the Black Rainbow, is so fucking good. I might go for Mandy, but God, it's hard to choose. So, anyways, Mandy sitting at my number 3 spot. And my number 2, this is also going to be kind of a surprise, or at least I would think, especially going off kind of what I've just said. But so this movie just came out this year. It's only been on DVD, God, like a month, I think. So I think you've already probably guessed what I'm getting at, although maybe not. Nicolas Cage is in pretty much a movie every month, so I mean I could be talking about a number of movies, but I'm obviously probably going to be talking about the best one, which would be Pig. I absolutely loved this movie. I was kind of late in learning about this. I think it had just about gone to theaters by the time I was even aware of it. So it all just unveiled really fast. I saw the trailer randomly online, and this does not happen with me often, but I was instantly obsessed with this movie just going off the trailer. As soon as I saw it, I mean, I watched the trailer like 10 times that day. I knew that I was going to see this movie, and I was almost positive that I was going to love it, and it did not disappoint. Although I will say, if you've only seen the trailer and you haven't seen the movie yet, the trailer's very misleading. I'm kind of disappointed in them for doing that, because why would you do that? It seems so intentional. Again, I don't want to throw any spoilers out there, being as this movie still is fairly new. So the trailer, I will just say this much: the trailer makes it look like it's going to be like this crazy, like John Wick style revenge action movie, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. This is not an action movie. It's not a revenge movie. It's just a very good movie. It's basically about, so Nicolas Cage is this basically retired chef. He was like, for years, he was a chef working in high-end restaurants in Portland. He basically, his wife dies, not in the movie. It kind of hints at that later on. His wife died, and he basically went off the deep end. Left Portland for good, basically. He moved out into... basically out into the boonies, out into the woods of Oregon. And I would say to make money, but it doesn't really look like he makes a lot of money, because he just kind of lives out in this little cabin. And so basically what he does, to get by, he truffle hunts. You may or may not know, in a lot of high-end restaurants, especially in the Pacific Northwest, truffles are in super high demand. There are a lot of people that's how they make their money. They go and forage truffles, sell them to buyers and high-end restaurants and stuff like that. And the better truffles you can get, the more money you can make. And a lot of people don't just forage the truffles themselves. They have an animal that will help them find them. And usually it's either a dog or a pig. And I mean, these animals have to be trained. It's an expensive, long process. You have a good truffle hunting dog or a pig. From what I've read, you can get anywhere from like 20 to 40 grand for these animals. So basically, what happens is Nicolas Cage is robbed one night. He's assaulted, and his pig is stolen from him. He's lived out in the woods for many, many years at this point, and his pig he has no friends, no family. His pig is the only companion that he has. So he obviously is going to go look for her, and that's just basically what the movie's about. He's determined, and he will stop at nothing to find her. Again, though, I mean, I don't really. I'm trying to go about this. I could have like written a script or something and made this more professional, but I think you guys know that's not my style. I don't think anyone of you would expect that from me. But so I think I've laid out enough. But I'll just say some things about the movie. It's so well written and so well directed. It's beautiful to look at. And like I said, even just from watching it, you know, as it unfolds, you're kind of getting ideas in your head of what you think is going to happen next. And I feel like you're often proven wrong. So much of this movie is so unexpected, but it's just so beautiful. I mean, this movie is about it's about accepting things that you can't control. It's about, you know, dealing with loss. It's about, you know, which is one of the hardest things to do in life, but it's about moving on from, you know, from trauma. There's just so much of this movie that will just hit you like a sledgehammer. I know I probably use that term too much, but and again, Nicolas Cage's performance in this is one of the best of his entire career. This is easily my favorite movie of this year. I don't want to oversell it, but you know, I felt like his performance was so good that at times, I mean, we all have this image in our head of what we expect him to do in most movies, and I felt like at times I just got so lost in the movie that at times I almost forgot that it was Nicolas Cage. You know, to me it was just his name is Robin. I forget his last name. You just feel like it's the character. You forget that it's Nicolas Cage playing this character. And I don't want to give all the credit to Nicolas Cage. You know, the director. You know, let's look up his name because I don't remember. Written and directed by Michael Sarnowski. I cannot wait to see what this guy does next. I'll have to look into it. I don't know if he's working on something currently or if he's, you know, taking some time off. And not only the director, but I also want to give some credit to Alex Wolff. This guy right here, you might remember him from Hereditary. And he was pretty good in Hereditary, but he was playing like a 17-year-old, and he might have been 17 in that movie. I don't know. He was younger. This is a couple years later. He's a little older. He's still a young guy. I think he's like 21 or 22, maybe 24, something like that. But his performance in this movie is amazing, honestly, as well. And I can't wait to see what he does next. His role in the movie, if you want to know, he's one of the buyers. He's one of the truffle buyers. You know, he drives all the way out to the woods to see Nicolas Cage, Robin, and he buys truffles from him because he's one of the best truffle foragers around. He's known for finding the best stuff. So he sells them to Alex Wolff. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of his character, sadly, but so yeah, he's the buyer. He's one of the only people Nicolas Cage knows in this movie. He's definitely the only human character. He's the only human that he actually interacts with on a regular basis. So when he loses his pig, you know, obviously he needs some help. So he basically comes to, you know, Alex Wolff, who's very reluctant to help him, but yeah, and it just goes from there. I think I've said enough. Great performances, like I said, by Nicolas Cage and Alex Wolff, and maybe even a couple other people, but mainly those two. Those two are definitely the main characters of the movie. And how adorable is the pig, by the way? Oh my God, she's as adorable as you would expect in the movie as well. I did read though that she bit Nicolas Cage numerous times in this movie, which is kind of funny because she's really not in it for that long. Like, Jesus, pigs are cute sometimes, but they are fucking pains in the ass. I don't, if you've ever had to deal with one, even trained pigs, and even pigs that are accustomed to humans, they're a pain. So, anyways, I hope I'm not rambling too much. I hope I'm doing these movies at least some justice. You know, as you know, if you watch my channel, I do everything. I shoot from the hip. I don't script anything. I should. If I ever wanted this channel to become anything, you know, I gotta become more professional. But that's not why I do this. I don't do this for accolades or, you know, to try to, I don't know. I do this for fun. That's all. But I hope I'm making this at least worth watching, because I've never really done anything like this before. So hopefully, I do want to do more things like this. So hopefully I do kind of get better at it. But anyways, yeah, let's get to my number one. Drum roll. I don't know if... I'm kind of wondering if you guys are watching. I'm wondering what you're guessing my number one will be, because I don't think I've ever talked about this movie on this channel, or I have talked about it on Instagram for those of you that follow me on there. But yeah, let's just do this. My number one. This movie came out, I believe, also in '99, same year as Bringing Out the Dead, and I saw this in the theater as well. I was 17 years old, and I was not ready for some of this. I was still pretty innocent back when I was 17, and I was not ready for this movie, I don't think, entirely, and it kind of disturbed me in some ways, but it also... Nicolas Cage's performance has always, in this movie, has always stuck with me. It made quite the impact. So we're talking about 8mm, directed by Joel Schumacher. I'll just say it right now. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is far from perfect. It's a good movie. Maybe not even a great movie. It's got its flaws, but it has its strengths. And its strengths, at times the script could be written a little bit better, I think. But Nicolas Cage, he has some great performances in here. Again, some performances that are just so intense that they just almost make me just kind of want to break down a little bit. A couple in here especially that I'm thinking of that are just so impactful. There are other good performances in this as well. You got a young Joaquin Phoenix who's great. You got James Gandolfini, who's a villain, and he's a great villain. You hate this motherfucker. Peter Stormare is, you know, I always like Peter Stormare. He's a total fucking sleazeball in this movie. He's a villain as well. Anthony Heald, Jesus Christ, fucking, you hate that motherfucker as well. But you know, the villains are very unlikable. They're not the villains that you root for. These are the villains that are just, they make you sick, really. They actually like make your stomach turn. This movie is it's very gritty. It definitely has some taboo subjects in your like snuff films, which a snuff film in and of itself, yeah, it's horrifying, but there's way more horrifying topics in this movie, like child pornography. I probably shouldn't even say that on. I don't know. I don't even know if it's okay to say that on YouTube, but I just did. So, but yeah, that's a thing in this movie as well. Don't worry. I mean, it doesn't like show it or anything, but it definitely is a topic in this movie, and obviously there. I mean, I don't think there's anything worse in this world than that. I think that is literally as fucked as it gets. And like I said, that plays a role in this movie. So anyway, so Nicolas Cage is a, what do you call it? He's a private investigator. He is hired by this is just some rich old lady whose husband was like, I don't know, somebody very important. That it doesn't. I don't think it really says if he's a politician or. Anyways, he's a rich, powerful man. He dies, and so he's got this vault in his office or whatever in his house, and so he dies. And his wife opens it up, obviously, which she never had before. She wanted to go through all these things. Obviously, he's dead now. She goes through it. She finds some regular stuff, stocks and bonds, cash, jewelry, stuff like that. But then she finds an 8mm film in a tin. Obviously, she wants to know what the fuck is this. She plays it, and she doesn't know what to make of it. It's basically a movie, like a short movie of what appears to be like a teenage girl being slaughtered. I think it's like a porno movie. Porno. How 80s is that, right? I think it's porn now. But anyways, so it's a porn movie, and then with ending with the girl being slaughtered. Of course, she doesn't know if it's real or not, and that's what she wants to find out, of course, as anyone fucking would. So she hires, Nicolas Cage to look into it. He watches it. He's like, I don't know, it looks pretty real, but I mean, these kinds of things can be faked very easily. So, but she's like, I don't care. I want you to find out if it's real or not, and that's the whole premise of the movie. But I love it. I watch it. I still watch it at least every couple of years. Like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite movies, but I don't know if I can call it a great movie. I think it had so much more potential. This movie could have been top tier great, but it does fall short of that due to, I don't know, like I said, I think at times the script maybe could have just been a little tighter. There's some parts of the movie that I think I would have taken out, maybe take a couple of things out, add a couple of things in. Could have been fantastic, but I still love it. It doesn't matter. It turned out the way it turned out, and I absolutely love it. So that is it. That is my top 3 Nicolas Cage movies of all time. Of course, that is just for now. I mean, give it 5 years, 10 years, maybe even give it 1 year. That could change, but at this moment, I really wanted to do that video because those are movies that I really, really love, and I want you guys to watch them. If you've seen them, let me know what you think, and let me know what your top 3 are. I'd love to know. I mean, like I said, I love Nicolas Cage. Obviously, he's doing way more movies lately than he should, and some of them are great, some of them are awful, some of them are just pretty good. And a lot of them I haven't seen. I watch them at the rate that I can, and he probably has 30 or 40 movies still that I haven't seen. So, if I were to throw in other honorable mentions, I really do love Matchstick Men. His performance in that is also great, and I really love that movie. So Matchstick Men I would have thrown in there. As a teenager, I was a big fan of his like action movies, like The Rock. I loved The Rock. I loved Con Air, and he was a good action hero, of course. Nicolas Cage is one of those actors that he's done almost literally everything. He's done like romance movies, like fucking, what was it, City of Angels or whatever. He's done comedies. Raising Arizona, that was a great movie. He's done it all, and he's pretty good at everything. I think when his mind is, when he likes the role, when he believes in it, he's fucking phenomenal. When he dials it in, and it's totally fucking obvious. But yeah, I really love Matchstick Men. Raising Arizona, like I said, great. Always loved Con Air. I don't have a DVD copy. I need to get a copy of that. Yeah, love Nicolas Cage. What do you guys think? I know a lot of people absolutely hate him. So if you hate him, don't be afraid to tell me. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to criticize you. This is Felix, by the way. He's a little shorty, so you can't really see him. But anyways, thanks for stopping by. I really hope you guys watch this movie, and I really hope we can get talking about Nicolas Cage and the movies I showed and the movies you want to talk about. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. We will talk soon. Cheers, guys.